All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hot Route Takes. I am Chase Owens along with my co host, Christian Mills and Brian Sarver. As you know, guys, anyone that's been listening along, we typically have this format of where we're sticking to a Wednesday pod we record with the game picks and previews of each NFL game for the week ahead. Release that to y'all Thursday mornings on your podcast feeds and then recap the action on Sunday night and have that for you in the Monday morning podcast feed. So we've talked amongst ourselves and we figured we can do these Wednesday episodes a little bit different because they tend to run a little longer. We like to get our previews in and our takes in for each episode. So we want to break it down into two separate Wednesday episodes. We'll record both on Wednesday nights when we're together. And the first one will be released on Thursday morning. It'll be about a 30-minute game pick episode, just previewing each game as we always do. And anyone that's been listening, the second half of those shows have been our takes, our NFL takes for the week. We're going to break that down into a totally separate show. We'll record it on Wednesday nights, as I said, but that will be released on Friday mornings in your podcast feeds. And hopefully those will just be a little more raw and out in the air, open discussion on our takes, because at times we feel when we're running towards that hour mark on a preview show, it can be a little crammed and we're not getting the open discussion that we quite want. So I think two separate shows will benefit both us and the listeners. So thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we're going to try that out in this first rendition. This episode is going to be the preview picks for NFL Week 13 now. To start us off, I'm going to recap those two primetime games from Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football in Week 12. Obviously, the first one was my Ravens taking a 20-10 victory on the road against Christian's Chargers. We'll both hammer home what we saw from each of our team and what we see going forward in Week 13. Christian, obviously, your guys falling to what now 4-7. Things just looking bleak, and the performance wasn't bad, but it was a game y'all needed to win and ultimately did not. So, what'd you see from your guys Sunday night, Christian?
Oh yeah, I seen a Justin Herbert being the leading rusher cannot happen, and also, I hadn't talked about it much on the pod. Chase, I know you were a little late to the whole draft thing when we talked about it, but my guy was Zay Flowers. He ended up with with your team, of course. That's how it drew up, but
Yeah.
my guy Quentin Johnson, was hurt supposedly, and then at the end of the game, pretty much we got told he was benched. I mean, hasn't performed, not creating the separation. So it's really the Keenan Allen show, and that's really the whole offense. So that's my biggest takeaway right now is, the defense is sorry. I done preached about it on the pod. I will say we did kind of, surprised me on what we kind of did do against y'all. But, our defense has kind of been off and on all year. And just, moving forward offensively, Austin Eckler, I don't know if he's maybe 100%. Maybe you can even go that far. But since the injury, he just hasn't looked the same. And just it's Keenan Allen, and then who else at this point? No one's kind of stepped up. I know Joshua Palmer is supposed to be coming back off of IR, and I think immediately is the number 2 guy. Just he's shown at least the most promise offensively for us. But just honestly, that's my big takeaway. Maybe we're missing Joey Bosa, but he really hadn't been doing much this year either. But at the end of the day, I don't think it changes how this game got played.
Yeah, there's a lot of directions I could go on the Ravens side of the ball here. Ultimately, the positive is a 9-3 record, a win going into your bye. It looked like a team very much ready for their bye. It's the last bye week for all NFL teams in this football season. And with the traveling to London, the Thursday night game after a Sunday night game, all those things factoring in for the Ravens, very much a team in need of a bye. That said, I very much grow concerned each week with this offensive line because the Chargers had not been known to have a great day defensively, and Khalil Mack really just put a whooping on Ronnie Stanley on Sunday night, and really the entire offensive line. You see Lamar Jackson, he started out very good in the quick RPOs to OBJ, and that first touchdown got going, but the offense truly stalled the rest of the game, and I think that's due to the fact that when Lamar's not comfortable in the pocket, he really tends to just not have the explosive plays and stay on schedule and hit the Zay Flowers and those in cutting routes behind the defense when the pocket's not stable. And the Chargers proved that Sunday night, so that's concerning for me. But I can't preach enough about the defense. That's really the good takeaway from us because Justin Herbert and that offense is still very capable, but Kyle Hamilton was all over the field making plays. Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen looking like one of the best inside linebacker duos in the league, if not the best. Just more great things from them. So I'll take that as a positive and just want this team to get rested and healthy, enjoy the bye week. So, Brian, I'll let you touch on the Monday night game. It was the Chicago Bears picking up a 12-10 victory on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. This game right here, for anyone that doesn't know, that put Brian at what 15-1 for Week 12 and your game picks. Truly, just dominant performance. Your one loss was the pick of Carolina, which obviously that's a team that's hard to put your faith in. But they gave Tennessee a game nonetheless. But getting back to the Monday night game, Brian, you went with Chicago, and they paid off because the defense and Fields really just handled their business and didn't make too many self-inflicting mistakes. What else did you see from the Bears and the Vikings, for that matter, in this Monday night game?
Just loving that I'm continuing to see Justin Fields take steps in the offense, continuing to look better than he did earlier in the season. You saw him through the air. You saw some of the dynamic ability in this game, I thought, being able to escape pressure and hit guys up the field and take off and run. I thought he was very good in this game. Of course, he did have the 2 fumbles that nearly costed them the game. And, that's just kind of been the book on Justin Fields so far in his career. But, he's got to clean it up. You can see the talent. You can see the plays he's capable of making. And you also recognize this is not a great supporting cast still by no means. The offensive line is still very leaky. I mean, you see him constantly making things happen outside of structure because pressure's arriving almost immediately. So, I mean, DJ Moore as well, picking up in the passing volume and continuing to be a good weapon for Justin Fields and a go-to guy. Then on the other side of things, Christian's guy, Josh Dobbs, had a not great night. Maybe some of it was unlucky, but 4 picks is just not going to get it done, even if it is the Chicago Bears. But, I still quite haven't bought into the Josh Dobbs hype, and performances like this kind of make me wary of doing so just because I see this. I saw performances earlier in the year. Yes, he's had some good ones, but he's also had 1 pick, 1 touchdown, 120 yards passing. Like, that just seems like a Josh Dobbs stat line to me. He's also made plays on the ground, but credit to him where he's played well recently, but this kind of is regression back to the norm in my opinion. But we'll see how it goes the rest of the year. He can still prove it to me. Anyway, good performance from Chicago.
Any rebuttal, Christian? I know that's your guy. I'll let you get a word in here.
Yeah, I'm gonna just say, man, a lot of them was tipped. I understand he was trying to fit some windows that maybe he shouldn't have been throwing, but I just think a lot of it was unlucky. Maybe you can say, I mean, I take maybe 2 of them was maybe his fault, then the rest was just the other 2 was just tipped, couldn't really control. The only other thing, just real quick on the Vikings, is just I think Ty Chandler, the running back, needs to get a little bit more involved. I understand Madison's their guy and all, but he's explosive, speedy guy. I think when he does get involved, it really changes how this team is playing. But other than that, that's really my big thing. Jordan Addison needs to get more involved too, but I don't know how much that's just TJ Hawkins has been the guy since Joshua Dobbs took over.
Yeah.
Yep, with you there, Christian. That's it for the 2 primetime games we had in Week 12. As we move forward to NFL Week 13, our Thursday night game is an NFC matchup between potential wildcard teams here. The Seattle Seahawks, coming off a bitter loss, traveling to the Dallas Cowboys, who maybe looked as impressive as any team. Both these teams played on Thanksgiving, so the NFL doing the smart thing and keeping these teams on a 1-week schedule pretty much. I think Dallas looked as good as any team last week. That includes the Sunday game. So it's hard for me to pick against them right now and the way Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and company are playing. So I'll take the Cowboys at home, although I think it'll be a pretty good game.
I went with the Cowboys as well, and I don't know that this will be a good game. Honestly, I think Dallas's defense will get after Seattle, especially the offensive line. You'll see a lot of Micah Parsons in this football game. He was sick or something, listed as questionable, but he did, I think, return to practice today. So that's good for Micah Parsons and the Cowboys defense. I just think they've been good all year. I think that they can really mess with the timing of this Seattle offense. So Cowboys probably big.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna keep it short. I went for Dallas too. I think Geno Smith's still dealing with the injuries, and now you're telling me he's playing against a decent pass rush in this Dallas team. So I think that's going to be causing some problems. And they still, I don't think Kenneth Walker. I think he is questionable, but I mean, I wouldn't.
He's out.
He's out. Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
And now you telling me he's out. Not gonna. I just don't see Seattle having that much luck really with this Dallas team. How good they've been playing. Definitely their defense. So I think, like Brian's saying, it's gonna be Dallas, and I think it might get ugly.
That's fair. I think Seattle needs to jump off that Jackson Smith and Jigba great catch last week and kind of get him a little more involved. The passing game just has to be better if they want to beat a good team like Dallas. Um, that remains to be seen because without Kenneth Walker, it's certainly a challenge. So, moving forward to the Sunday games, we've got an AFC South matchup between the now 6-5 Indianapolis Colts traveling to Tennessee to take on the 4-7 Tennessee Titans, both coming off wins last week. Almost picked Tennessee in this one, honestly, because I think the loss of Jonathan Taylor is huge for this Colts team. But that said, Zach Moss has really answered the bell from the majority of the season when Taylor was out. And although I don't see a lot of great QB play from Gardner Minshew at the moment, I think the Colts defense and Zach Moss will put more points up than what I see Will Levis and company doing. So I'm taking the Colts in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Colts here. I look for this to be a close game, but in the end, one of the quarterbacks, one of these two teams is going to make a critical mistake and it's going to swing the other way. I can see a defensive touchdown being scored in this game. It's going to be one of those. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts here. I just think their defense is kind of been proving themselves all year, just week after week. So I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with y'all 100%. Colts, I just think their defense mainly, like y'all said, and just Derrick Henry. I mean, I've been kind of saying, I maybe pick Tennessee, Derrick Henry, but it just doesn't seem like that's the thing this year. I mean, I hate to say it, but this would be probably now that I said this and put it out there. Derrick Henry might have a big game, but
I'm with you.
I just see the Colts defense playing good enough to really make this be a close game. And at the end of the day, if they control the ball and get Zach Moss moving like we've seen earlier this season, that should be a Colts win.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm with you, Christian. I've been waiting on the Derrick Henry breakout game all year, and honestly, it just seems like that line's not talented enough to allow that to happen. So, Tennessee not looking like the best team, looking like they might drop to 4-8, as we all predict in this one. Moving on, we've got your Chargers, Christian, traveling on the road to Gillette to take on the now 2-9 Patriots. Man, Brian, if any listeners that haven't listened to last week's pod, just go back and take a quick listen to Brian's segment on the Pats and Bill Belichick as a whole. That franchise very much sputtering more than any franchise right now. It's hard to pick them in any game against a quarterback like Justin Herbert. I definitely am not picking the Pats in this one. Give me the Chargers to move to 5-7 on the year.
Man, you got to go with the Chargers. That team is dysfunctional as all get out. They may be right now playing the worst football in the league, and that's insane to think about. You see Carolina being at least competitive in games. New England's just horrible. I heard, saw somewhere that Bill Belichick maybe being traded to Carolina. I hope that happens, honestly. I
I don't
really
know
do.
who want to work with that owner after the things he's said, but we can talk about it later in the pod or the next pod, actually. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to just go ahead and say if he's getting traded, he can come on down to L.A., and I'll take Bill Belichick real quickly. I know,
that.
Brian, I do want that,
don't.
Brian, but
Don't.
I think we can go out there and have a good showing for our new coach. It's going to look great. It's going to be a good game. He's going to love seeing Justin Herbert, and then after we, finally get a win, I think, Bill Belichick would be, what, I really do like that team, and I can straighten up that terrible defense, and he'll come on down. I will say, real quick on New England side, but Chargers definitely for me. But Mac Jones starting, definitely not. I just don't see it happening.
They can't do it again, man. Like the poor guy.
Like, he cannot, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see Mac Jones starting just with what we've been hearing this week. If he does, then, oh, yeah, Chargers by 100.
Yeah, I mean, even if he does, he's been benched now 4 times this season. It will probably be a fifth because I would expect Khalil Mack to have another good day. Just the way it is in New England right now, and a team we've discussed quite a bit. Moving on, we'll get to a better football team here. That's the Detroit Lions sitting at 8-3, who actually came off a disappointing Thanksgiving loss. They'll be looking to rebound in this one, traveling to New Orleans to take on the now 5-6 New Orleans Saints, who sit tied atop the NFC South. Obviously, an important game for them. Honestly, a kind of evenly matched teams. I think Detroit is better, and they got to keep Goff upright, when he gets uncomfortable in the pocket, this team really sputters on offense for me. And the defense, when they're not getting a pass rush with Aiden Hutchinson, they tend to sputter. So trench play for the Lions, honestly, some of the most important out of it is for all teams, but really more so for them, I think. And I think they'll play well in the trenches this Sunday and pick up a road victory against the Saints.
Yeah, I'm with you, Chase. We're not differing a whole lot so far through this pod, but I just cannot bring it within me to pick the Saints and Derek Carr right now. They're just not playing good ball, man, in the red zone and not converting. They're moving the ball at a decent rate, but they just cannot put it in the end zone. The offense has kind of looked out of sync all year, and I just don't see it continuing. This would be a game you can maybe see this Lions defense have a better week than they had of late. So I'm going to go with Detroit.
Yeah, I'm just after what I seen out of the Saints last week. I mean, I picked them for maybe the first time all year, and they let me down. So just off of that, man, Detroit. I think the running game's going to be too much for the Saints to handle. I don't think it's really going to matter about Jared Goff and if he's upright or not. I just think this running game and the two head monster is going to take over for Detroit, and they should, I think, easily probably win this game.
Yep, all three looking like we're picking all the same teams so far. Maybe we differ up here soon. I mean, there's not a lot of like split 50-50 matchups this week, but supposedly a few that we can maybe talk ourselves into an upset pick. This next one really wasn't the case for me. It's the Jets hosting the Atlanta Falcons. I know the Falcons aren't the best team in the world, but you're throwing Tim Boyle out there under center, man. I mean, the line it's not dominant enough to let Brees Hall have a day against Atlanta's defense, who's been pretty good. Jesse Bates has been a spectacular addition on that Atlanta defense. He is having a great year. Had another pick six last week. I expect that type of performance from the Atlanta defense and the ground game just to be solid enough to put up more points than the Jets can hope of scoring. So that's my reason for picking Atlanta in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Atlanta. And it's just because I have zero faith in the Jets offense to do anything at all. Like, it's probably the worst unit on either side of the football in the NFL. And it's just pitiful to watch, man. It kind of is. With Tim Boyle running, it's worse than Zach Wilson. They'd be better off with Zach Wilson out there. I'm going to go with Atlanta. I think Bijan Robinson has potential to have a good game if he can get the ball, which is always a question mark, Arthur Smith. But I expect some turnovers in this game for sure.
But man,
I knew
somebody
it.
had to be the guy, man. And you know what? I just after what I said just now about Atlanta, man, it's just when I do believe that this should be the game they should win. It just seems like they always let me down. And a couple weeks ago we were talking about Desmond Ridder. Now you're telling me he's playing up against the Jets defense. You mean you say what you want about the Jets, but I just believe in this defense to really. I mean, they can hand it off if they want, Brian. I understand that too, but I just think this Jets defense is going to be a little too much for Atlanta to handle, and I just think Desmond Ridder could potentially have a bad showing in this game. I think it's going to be hard for their wide receivers to really create separation. Kyle Pitts has been on and off all year, but I think this offense can produce enough for the Jets to really just let their defense play how they want to play, control the ball, get Brees Hall involved a lot, and just kind of get Garrett involved with little passes and take your deep shots when they're there. And I think that'd be enough to beat this Atlanta team.
I'm kind of in that same boat, Christian. It feels like really them and the Saints, any NFC South team, anytime I've been brave enough to pick them, they kind of let me down, and it's been infuriating because I think they're all decent teams, better than say a New York Jets team led by Tim Boyle. But I would not be the least bit shocked to see the Jets defense have a day against Desmond Ridder and pull this one out. So. Moving on, we've got the new look Pittsburgh Steelers offense hosting the now 2-10 Arizona Cardinals. Pittsburgh picking up that road victory against Cincinnati last week. Finally eclipsed that 400-yard total offense mark for the first time in nearly 60 games, but still managed just to put up 16 points. Very close for me to picking Arizona, and Kyler Murray, especially now, has a little hope for that offense, but Pittsburgh's defense has been sound all year, and they did make a few strides in offense last week. So I'm going to roll with that and just hope the Steelers lose, and I'll gladly take a loss in picks if that's the case. But right now, I have to pick the Steelers.
I went with the Steelers as well. Maybe Najee Harris breakout game, man. big game on
He
the
was
ground.
right at 100 yards last week. He looks
He looked good.
good. Yeah.
He still looks slow, but he was good. Jalen Warren did not play as well last week, but the whole offense just looked better. So I expect him to beat this lowly Cardinals team.
Yeah, I went with Pittsburgh. I think what I seen last week out of this Pittsburgh Steelers team and actually attacking the middle of the field, if they're going to do that moving forward, I think this offense is actually going to have some potential. And they got Najee Harris almost 100 yards rushing. So I think just if they could build upon that and actually get this offense in a positive direction. Well, I mean, we don't have to talk about the defense. We know where we're getting week in and week out. So it's really just what this offense will bring. And I just have more faith in the Pittsburgh team just in general before this Arizona team that's been just a bend but don't break defense. And it's either the Kyle Murray's going to play great and carry us to a win, or we seen last week where it's just he can't do enough. So I just think definitely what we seen what the Rams defense did. I understand it's a week to week league, but Arizona struggled against the Rams, and now you're telling me they're going to play against a great defense. I just have to lean with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we're all bored that one. Next up, Brian, your Miami Dolphins will be traveling to Washington to take on the 4-8 Commanders. A coach that's honestly on the hot seat for me, and that's Ron Rivera. I think this may be a after season coaching change, but if they drop 2 or 3 in a row, maybe that's enough to spur change up in Washington. I think your Dolphins play into that. I think they'll put a whooping up on Washington, score a lot of points, and the Commanders will look pretty rough come Sunday. So give me the Dolphins big.
Yeah, I went with the Dolphins as well. I think this is a good opportunity to really rack up some points and yardage. The team that has really struggled to stop it through the air, like their pass defense, I think is ranked 32nd in the NFL. And Emmanuel Forbes, first round pick, is questionable for this game. He's not been good this year. He's been bullied this year, and I honestly think that it could be bad enough to maybe get him fired after the game. I don't know. I think the offense is in they're ready for a big game. They've kind of had some moments last several weeks of they've kind of sputtered. There's been some turnover problems, but I think this is a get right opportunity for them. And then the defense, man, Sam Howell's the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. Miami has like the second most or third most sacks in the NFL. So I expect us to really get after it, even without Jalen Phillips. I expect it to be a pretty dominant performance altogether.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Miami, but I will say I wonder what Washington will get. I'm saying that because we've seen this team go toe-to-toe with the Eagles. I understand that is a division game, but I just wonder what offense we'll see out of Sam Howell. But I think at the end of the day, it won't really matter. I think just Miami will put up too many points at the end of it all. But I think I'm interested to see just with Ron Rivera. I think he is actually calling the defense in this game. So I think him being now head coach and calling defensive plays, like y'all said, his seat could be getting a little bit hotter. If this Miami team goes out there and really embarrass them, it's not going to look good for Ron at all.
Yeah, I think a key point to touch on here is how the Miami pass rush looks without one Jalen Phillips now. If there's a team to boost your confidence against, it would be this Washington O-line. Obviously, Brian touched on Sam Howell being put on the turf quite a bit this year. So look for those other depth guys, make some noise, and hopefully get some confidence moving against the better offensive lines as the season progresses. Next up, guys, we're still in the 1 o'clock window. The last 1 o'clock window game here is honestly a pretty evenly split game. Two pretty scolding hot teams. The most hottest team in the NFL is actually the road team here. It's the Denver Broncos, who have won, 5 in a row now? 6-5 on the year, traveling to Houston. CJ Stroud, we preach a good bit on this pod, playing some of the best, if not the best quarterback in all of football. My gut right now, honestly, is telling me Denver, and I think it's leaning towards special teams being the reason. They recently waived the kicker who missed a lot of field goals last week. Houston did. I think their regular Kaimi Fairbairn is still going to be on the mend and out of this football game, so it could come down to special teams, and I lean Denver's favor, and that could be the reason. That strong defense, maybe getting after CJ a little bit, leads me to pick Denver in a little bit of an upset in this game.
I went with Denver. I was hoping you weren't, Chase. I hope you were going to go with Houston. I thought you both would. I just think that Denver has been playing good football, man. That's just what it comes down to. And let's not forget this Houston team lost to Carolina 4 or 5 weeks ago. They're not a complete team. They're a young team. I don't expect them to continue consistently winning games the way they are. They're in for a loss or two. That's not saying they're a bad team by no means. They just have some youth on the team, and CJ Stroud's playing phenomenal. I'm not saying anything negative. This Broncos team has been good. It's been very good as of late, and Russell Wilson's actually kind of returned to form a little bit. He has this kind of chaotic play style. It's like one read and then run around and make something happen, and it sometimes works great, sometimes it don't. But he's been able to rein it in with Sean Payton. I like it. I'm gonna go Broncos.
I did go back and forth. I will say, I just want to say, Sean Payton, I think I was wrong on the whole Denver thing. I think this is actually a good hire now looking at it and just what he's really taken. I think the first couple of weeks was him trying to see what he really had, and now he knows what he has to do, and he's changed it up with the coaching. But I just don't think it's going to be enough for CJ Stroud and the boys. I think they're going to come out here, and I think it's just going to be too many points for Denver to really keep up with them. I understand their defense has been playing better, but just CJ Stroud and them, they put up points week in, week out. I think it's going to be one of those things where this team doesn't have a real number one guy. I think we've talked about it on the pod. There's multiple weapons, multiple ways they can go, and I just think that's going to be too much for Denver to really handle. And I just think when it is time for a shootout, we've seen this year, just Denver can't keep up.
Yeah, an interesting matchup to say the least. Houston is just really one of the more fun watches in general, I think, of any football team right now. So them locking up against Denver's defense will be a game to get your popcorn for, because that's a good side of the ball to match up. I think Tank Dell's well on his way. If it wasn't for CJ Stroud, Tank Dell could be your rookie of the year right now. Like, that's a great combo. I'm excited to watch them for the future, for years to come. Moving on, we get to the 4 o'clock window, guys, and funny enough, mathematically, this is not going to happen. I'll say this on record now, but mathematically, the Carolina Panthers still technically could host a NFC playoff game if they're 1-10 and the division leader is sitting at 5-6 in Atlanta and New Orleans. If Atlanta were to reel off 6 in a row and go 7-10, they technically could host a playoff game. For that to happen, they have to take care on the road and beat this Tampa Bay Bucks team, who's sit at 4-7. And as bad as Carolina's looked, I still can't do it, man. It's very, 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 very bad. I just had to get that on record because as bad as things are, things could turn around if Bryce Young all of a sudden turns into CJ Stroud and makes something out of nothing in Carolina. I don't see it happening, guys. I think all three of us are going to be on Tampa Bay here. I know they're not playing the best football, but a win keeps their NFC South hopes alive. Y'all with me on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Tampa.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tampa. I think Mike Evans is just going to be the game changer in this game. I just think Carolina's just not going to have an answer for definitely Mike Evans, but maybe White gets going too in this game, and it's just going to be too much for Bryce Young and them to keep up.
I like it. Next one, I think one of the more interesting ones of the 4 o'clock window. It's not going to have the build up that the next one we'll talk about will, but Rams Browns in LA. Obviously, the quarterback dilemma. I think it's looking like my old guy Joe Flacco could be the starter for Cleveland in this one. And my God, you guys, I saw it a lot in my Ravens fandom, and I've loved Joe Flacco. He got us the Super Bowl, but prepare yourselves for numerous checkdowns to running backs and David Njoku as well. If you got either the Cleveland running backs or Njoku in fantasy, please start them this week because Joe Flacco will check it down in a hurry. And for that reason, I don't see a lot of explosion on the Browns offense, whereas when I look to the Rams side of the ball, I do. And especially with the addition of Williams back at running back, that offense is a great unit with him on the field. I'm picking them, and I would expect one of y'all to differ, but give me the Rams. They're playing pretty good football right now.
I went with the Rams as well, and a big part of it is Myles Garrett's health, just not being healthy, and he's just such a big part of this team's success, especially with Watson and Chubb being out. So I'm just going to go with the Rams here. Matthew Stafford's back on the field. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. I mean, he's got a full complement of weapons to work with, and he's been good when the weapons have been there. So I'm going to go with the Rams.
Man.
We'll learn one week, Christian.
I went with the Rams. I did. I just think, like Brian said, there's too many injuries on the Cleveland side. So I just think with Williams coming back and really boost the running back room to another level when he's out there, is really making this team where they actually have passing and running. And when we've seen when he's out, it's just a pass heavy team and defenses are selling for it. So I think with him being involved and Cleveland not having Myles Garrett, at least for the time being, I think it's going to hurt them. And just if Joey Flacco is starting, goodness, is all I'm going to say. Like, I thought maybe the Rams bringing out Carson Wentz would have been bad, but now you're telling me Joe Flacco is going to be out there. So, just, man, I think the Rams could easily take over this game and make it be a high-scoring game like they did last week to Arizona.
Yeah, so I mean, Rams put together one of the best performances last week, but still shocked to see you picked against Cleveland's defense because they've been, I know, man, they've been so good all year, and Christian has preached it, but things are a little different when the offense is as handicapped as it is in Cleveland right now. So I understand all three of us being on the LA in that one. Next up is probably the matchup of the week for me. Probably most NFL fans. You've got, excuse me, an NFC championship rematch between the San Francisco 49ers and the now 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles, who keep squeaking by with these thrilling last-second victories. And for me, I think that's reason enough to spell a loss just feels like it's coming. And they're hanging around with, they're beating good teams in close games. They're beating bad teams in close games. I think their luck's going to run out against a very good team. You guys both know I've preached my love for San Fran and that roster all year. I think they'll have a good day, especially on the defensive side. Get after Jalen Hurts a little bit and pull out a close victory on the road.
I went with Eagles, and I'm going to give you two names. Why? A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. That's going to be the reason. The corners San Francisco has, if there's a weakness on that unit, it's there. They're not ready for that kind of football. A.J. Brown, big game. Give me the Eagles.
Yeah, I went with the Eagles, and it's just what Chase said, but opposite. I think those close games just show how good this team actually is. They've shown, last year that wasn't a thing. Their schedule was too easy. They're blowing teams out. This team isn't that good, but this year's been a different whole story. I think, seeing what they've done, and definitely Jalen Hurts, the 5 touchdowns last week in the rain. I just think this team, no matter what, finds a way to win. Swift is get going in the run game. So I just think, I like the 49ers. I think they are a great team, but I just really see at the end of the day, this Eagle team find a way, and until they show me they can't find a way to win, I'm going to just pick the Eagles at this point. I think they're the best team right now in the NFL. And if they win this game, I don't see how you can argue that.
Yeah, if they win this game, they pretty much put to bed the 1 seed in the NFC. They'd hold the tiebreaker over San Fran. Really, the only hope would be Dallas beating Philadelphia later in the year and hoping they drop another along the way. And I just don't see that happening, really. Philadelphia is just so good, man. And this is going to be a great game to watch. Obviously, one of the best games of the week. That's the last one for our 4 o'clock window, our Sunday night game. Brian, you called the Packers upsetting one of these two games. They got the Lions last week. Are you brave enough to go back-to-back with Green Bay at home, Lambeau Field, Sunday Night Football? First time ever Patrick Mahomes will be traveling to Lambeau in the regular season. It's got all the matchups of two hot teams and could have the making of a good game. Brian, you got enough cojones to call the Packers in an upset.
Oh, I've been picking the Packers all year, but this is the Chiefs. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes, my guy Rashee Rice. He's been getting going. But I'm picking the Packers, man. Let's go.
Wow.
Jordan Love, the whole squad, man, they've been playing good ball. And the Chiefs have not been playing their best ball. I think they can get bit for not playing their best ball. And the defense has been good. It's not been great. And I can see this game potentially being an upset. So I'm going with Green Bay, man.
Brian, come on, brother. I'm going to go say, last week against the Lions, if the Lions do have one weakness, it's their corners. And guess what? In KC, that's not a weakness. So I see maybe Jordan Love coming back to reality a little bit, and maybe Brian can hopefully come back to reality too with him. But I just think, KC, they got it going without Travis Kelce, and I think they won pretty much without. I will say, if they come out here and spot Green Bay 14 points like they did the Raiders, I don't think it's going to be a game over and Green Bay's going to win. But if they come out and actually score quick and get the ball moving, and I think it will be a good game, I will say that. But I just think KC and Patrick Mahomes, kind of what I said about the Eagles, this is another team that, really could have beat the Eagles if somebody learned how to catch the ball. So this is another team that finds a way to win, gets it done no matter what. And I think they're really kind of finding out that Isaiah Pacheco is one of their star players, and that means dumping the ball off to him or getting them involved in the run game. They finally realize, hey, we need to get this guy involved, and that's something Green Bay does not have. They don't have that guy in the running game now that they can really get involved, and I think that's what's going to separate this game.
Aaron Jones?
Yeah, I was about to say Aaron Jones. I mean, he just hadn't been on the field this year, and he looked it last year. I think he's questionable. He didn't play last week. Maybe he returns in this one.
Don't
Um,
change nothing.
yeah, I was about to say for me that doesn't change a thing. I'm with Christian
Yeah.
all the way on this one. I've got KC, and maybe even more so. KC, they're playing for a 1 seed in the AFC playoff picture. They're 8-3. Ravens 9-3. Your Dolphins 8-3. I believe the Jags are 8-3 as well. Like this is going to be a fight to the finish, and they need every game they can get. They are better than the Packers. They got to take care of business on prime time. I think Patrick Mahomes will do so, and the Chiefs get this road victory. So last up, guys, to finish up the pod is going to be the Monday Night Football game between the now 5-6 Cincinnati Bengals traveling on the road to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who come off that key divisional win against Houston last week. Think the Jacksonville offense didn't light it up by no means, but they're in a good enough position to really take care of business on Monday night at home in front of a. They don't get a lot of primetime games, so I would expect that crowd to be really into this one and then put on a show. And the run game, especially, I think ETN can get going against Cincinnati. They've struggled against the run for much of the year. And that's going to be my reasoning for picking the Jags, and probably I'd say a 2-score game. I don't really see this one being close when you have Jake Browning at quarterback.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I'm gonna go with Jacksonville here. I just think there's too much going for Jacksonville, and the health of Cincinnati unfortunately is not where it needs to be. So I'm gonna go with Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to just, say what this would have been with Joe Burrow. I mean, this game would have been hyped up a lot more. I think we all know that. So hate to see the injury even now looking at this part of the schedule, but I'm going Jacksonville. I think with Zay Jones coming back to this team, it's really opened up this offense back up. I mean, he's just a role player, but him being able to run some of those routes that Ridley's been getting on the outside and being able to put Ridley back in the inside, it's really helping this offense move. So I just expect them being too much. And you're talking about Travis Etienne. Until at this point, I see Travis Etienne come back. To these last couple of weeks have looked rough.
No, I get that. And maybe not the Monday night game that NFL was hoping for. When you think of a Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence Monday night football matchup, that's obviously a big ratings hit. But unfortunately, injuries. We kind of preached that last pod, me and Brian, and it's been a unfortunate story of the year. So that's going to be it for our Week 13 game picks. As I said, you guys, at the top of this pod, that's going to wrap up this podcast episode, and we'll have that on your feeds Thursday morning. We're about to take a little intermission, get together, and record our takes version. Each of us will have 2 NFL takes, just a little open room, open floor debate amongst each other, and get that recorded and uploaded for you guys Friday morning. So thank you all for listening. Again, please follow us on Twitter. I'm at Chase Owens 96. Christian is at C_Mills241. And Brian is at Sarver_Brian on Twitter. Give us all of us follow the Dolphins, Chargers, and Ravens takes we spew out every Sunday and every game day. Very happy and very sad between what each of our team does. We really live and die with all of our teams. And we thank you for joining us, and continue to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast itself and the videos on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and all the alike. So thank you guys. We will catch you in the next one. Peace out.
I love you, Bill
Peace.
Belichick.
Do you?
I do, bro. That's my new